guys are probably all aware by now. So there is new Super Mario Brothers movie due to be released in April. And it was just a few days ago, the second trailer for the movie finally dropped online worldwide. I have probably seen that thing about 3 or 4 dozen times, especially if you include the many reaction videos that other individuals with way more followers than me have put up. In fact, if I had done something like that, was smart enough to do something like that, maybe I might get more viewers. But of course, I'm an idiot. But yeah, after this thing dropped, can we finally get some hope that, yes, these people actually know what they are doing with this movie?
Unfortunately, this is the same studio that did Minions, so just keep that in mind.
But just looking at this trailer, and we'll probably go on through it all the time. In fact, I almost considered showing it as the teaser, but decided against that. It's so very clear to me that this, at least from what I've seen on the trailer alone, that this is way more of a Nintendo production than a Universal Illumination production. There is just... Here, another thing you gotta have to remember. People like me, we were there 30 years ago when that Super Mario movie was released. And I can tell you, even from watching the trailers of that movie, as a 13, 14-year-old kid, looked at that and said, what the hell am I looking at? It was so obvious. Like, those filmmakers had no damn clue what Super Mario was about. Hell, we learned later on Bob Hoskins didn't know what Super Mario was about, and he was playing the lead role in it, even. And yet, it doesn't surprise me at all to have learned in more recent years that after all the rewrites and and replacements and production stuff and everything, to learn that it ultimately, the movie was ultimately put in the hands of the people who created Max Headroom. And like I said, I've watched it. And hey, Steve, glad to see you in the chat here. Want to make a shout out to that as well. Like I said, I reviewed the Max Headroom TV show on TV Trash. I liked the Max Headroom TV show. Max Headroom is not Super Mario. And that movie turned Super Mario into Max Headroom. It's just... I mean, hell, I have watched I've watched younger guys' reaction videos to that Super Mario movie. And I can't find anyone who's had to say anything good about it. This is the point I was getting at here is, like I said, to be someone who saw that movie in 1993, and just what an absolute disaster it was from the very beginning, and not only that, but just how many other horrible adaptations have been made in the years since. You just look at what was in that trailer for this upcoming movie, and it gives you that sense of, oh my god, this thing was put in the hands of people who know how to get it right. Almost.
Well, I don't know, we still gotta put blind faith of it. I mean, look what happened to Sonic the Hedgehog. When we saw Sonic the Hedgehog for the first time, everybody freaked out. So they had to get all the grunts back to the drawing board, go overtime, crunch time. You know the drill.
Yeah, but even then, we're not even getting that much. Like the only criticisms we've seen so far at least from much of the online community in regards to the Super Mario movie, is Chris Pratt as Mario. And even after watching this trailer, for the most part, what I've heard from people online talking about it is saying, he's okay. It's not terrible. I don't think we're going to get a lot of people to completely warm up to Chris Pratt voicing Mario. Even though I've said myself, from what I've heard of that voice so far, it actually does remind me quite a bit. It's close enough to not Captain Lou Albano, but is close enough to Walker Boone's voice, who voiced Mario in the other two Deke-produced cartoon series from the early 1990s. That's acceptable for me. But I think the main thing is that, ironically, is that the one thing about this entire Super Mario franchise is that it has grown to be so much more than just Mario. And you can see that in this trailer with everything that gets included on there. I mean, like, I don't think it's gonna be very bad to have, basically, to spoil anything, because if you haven't seen this trailer yet so far, sorry about that. But and again, we're only giving away something that the filmmakers want to be given away anyway, because they released it in that trailer. I mean, we start off with what basically seems to be a shout out to Super Smash Brothers, with Mario facing Donkey Kong of all people. So there's a shout out not only to the Smash Brothers game, but then the reference to Mario's first ever antagonist in the entire series. And even then, people have pointed out the crowd chants of Mario over and over again they open up to. That's a shout out to the original first television commercial for the Super Mario Bros. 3 video game, which I remembered Stanley. That's the beginning of it. And the fact they even show people like Cranky Kong sitting next to Princess Peach and Toad in the crowd, while Mario and Donkey Kong are fighting on this set that itself goes back to the original Donkey Kong game. They threw all these references in there, and that's just the beginning of it.
Yeah, that's a little that's a little concern for me. What I thought about the second trailer, because I think I actually prefer the first one, because like I said, it just gave a little brief like what Super Mario Brothers might be like, and then the second one they just threw all what the fans wanted to see in some sort, just like what they did with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the movie, in the back in, I think it was 2016 or some sort, out of the
Shadows. Yeah, I don't remember that much, but yeah. So yeah, so yeah, let's go on. Next thing we know is we get this just very brief montage scenes of not just Bowser having clutches with Luigi, but then we see all of Bowser's minions and monsters here, and just the fact that I saw Shy Guys in there. Who, you gotta remember, the Shy Guys were not mooks and minions of Bowser in the video games. They were from the US version of Super Mario Bros. 2, where Wart was the primary antagonist. But, and here's the thing, this is why it gets to me, because the Shy Guys were minions of Bowser Koopa in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show cartoon, because he was the chief antagonist in all of that entire series, but he more or less had the monsters from Super Mario 1 and 2 all over his control. So that's the first indication that these people are throwing a shout out back to those original cartoons that so many of us grew up on. And then we cut to our first showing and hearing the voice of Princess Peach Toadstool herself. And I'm almost going to predict this, that's exactly what's going to happen, because for those of us who grew up with her being called Princess Toadstool, I'm almost willing to bet it's going to be revealed that Peach Toadstool is her full name in this movie at some point. It's almost like that's the kind of stuff they're almost going for in this. So they show her, we get first we get a brief scene of just her in the throne room in her standard princess garb. Then we get a cut to her in the biker suit that she's used in Super Mario Kart, which is just foreshadowing, as we later see. Then it's a whole training montage of Mario and Peach, and what basically is clearly created by Mario Maker in there. And then it's just it just keeps going from there. We see Mario in the Tanuki suit. We see Peach showing how to use fire flowers. We get a brief cut of Yoshi's Island, which that's the biggest thing there, is that also is the fact that it's made so clear that they have gone back to the origins of Mario and Luigi from the 80s cartoons, and yes, even the movie, which show that these guys are originally from Brooklyn and get transported to the Mushroom Kingdom. The fact that they would consider that, and are still going to make mention of Yoshi's Island, which was the game that everyone has supposedly argued makes it in canon that Mario was from the Mushroom Kingdom to begin with. The fact that they're willing to put both in there is a major accomplishment there. And just the fact that we know the fact that we're going to have references to Luigi's Mansion in there from this and the earliest show, and then just the absolute capper on it is, well, actually maybe not, it's the penultimate capper, is seeing Mario Kart and Rainbow Road in there. It's just like the final touch to say, oh my god, they actually know what they're doing on this thing. But I've always said, to me, what really caps it off, and this was in both the trailers, is when they finally go to the title itself, and it's playing along with this orchestra rendition of the original Super Mario Brothers music. That is like the ultimate final stamp in assuring people that this thing is going to be fun, it's still going to be epic, it's going to be a shout out and love letter to the entire Super Mario Brothers franchise from the very beginnings. And hell, I've now supposedly, one of the planned television commercials has supposedly been leaked out since then. And at the start of it shows Mario and Luigi more or less in a setting that clearly is a shout out to the first Mario Brothers arcade game, where they're in the pipes with the turtles and the crabs and everything in there. It's like I said, the first Super Mario movie made it so clear few, if any, people actually involved in the movie knew anything about the games at all. But again, I think someone pointed out, Deke Productions with the cartoons supposedly knew very little about the games, but they still did the best they could with what they knew. The makers of the first movie of 1993 just did their own damn thing, which had no connection whatsoever. This thing, it just seems so clear that it's being made by people who know about the franchise, who have a great deal of passion and love for the franchise, and want to make the best rendition possible. There's two other things that come to mind when I think about this. One is the 2015 Peanuts movie that made me damn cry with how authentic to the original Charles Schultz works they made it. And the other is the recent video game Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which was so clearly made by people, if they didn't grow up on the first 1980s Fred Wolf TV series, they did a goddamn insane amount of homework regarding it to put with every single thing they put into that game. It's like when you're someone like me who's in his mid-40s now and has seen just so many terrible adaptations for years and years and years. And it's like now you're saying, finally, these things are being made by people who know what they're doing.
Yeah, just keep in mind is that video game movies have been like the butt of every jokes. I mean, keep in mind is that it took maybe 20 plus years before we finally got a decent Marvel movie, and keep in mind is that it will probably break that record for starting with Sonic the Hedgehog. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. What this makes that gives me not just hope but kind of laugh as well is that it's so clear that this is going to be a true video game movie, in that they're finding a way to put a theatrical story in what was originally just a platform video game, but there's still going to be elements of the platform game in there. I mean, like, people online were of course we've got the online chads just roasting this movie as should be expected. And one of their complaints, the two biggest complaints is one, supposedly girl bossing Peach. And I was saying, if you're thinking this is new, you don't know a damn clue about the Super Mario franchise. If you're not someone like me, because I played Super Mario 2, where you could play as the princess and freaking fly across pits and everything. I saw the original cartoons, where she was never just some simple damsel and whatnot. It's that different element to her personality was always there. But the second thing that people were complaining about was that supposedly they're making Mario look incompetent and buffoonish, especially in that supposed training montage. They're complaining about that. I'm thinking as someone who actually played those platform games, watching this and going, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that too many times to remember. Good God Almighty, did I do that? Like, it's being treated like someone who had to. It's like they know that the actual people who are looking forward to this movie are the people who remember that the very first time they played Super Mario Brothers, they ran into that first Goomba like an idiot. And you only had to just know that, yeah, you have to learn and take your lumps. And that's clearly what the main character is going to be doing in this movie.
Yeah, that's another point we got to point out is that back in the days, we have no instructions whatsoever. In fact, barely if the manual didn't come with it in the rental store.
Well, you did. No, what we did. You had to buy these few things called player's guides, and believe me, I had all of them. I still got them, my copies somewhere around here. Who knows where? I think they're probably they're stacked over there. Yeah. You couldn't go online for any hints back then, but you did have that. They would, believe me, Nintendo had no problem releasing multitude of players guides, or especially if you had a subscription to Nintendo Power back in the day. Trust me, that magazine saved me a hell of a lot of trouble on a lot of other games as I went on. But yet, it is a lot of those games were a trial by fire sort of thing. And it does, the fact they are going to find a way to incorporate that into this movie just speaks even more volume that they know how to get it right. And the fact is, and I'm going to say this, we've talked about what they've shown in that trailer already. There's still a lot of stuff we haven't seen. I mean, there's no sign of Daisy, of Rosalina, Bowser Jr. and the Koopa Kids, Wario, and all I'm thinking is they're saving that for the sequel. I think there's an actual plan here. Maybe not MCU level, but I think there is definitely plans of adding in, of there going to be another movie. And this, just the fact that this trailer alone is going to almost guarantee the first one is going to do hell of a lot better than anything else. That, yeah, the sequel's going to be a given. This isn't like Gem and the Holograms here, where they try to sequel bait a movie that was never going to get a sequel because the original movie was so god-awful.
Yeah, like I said, that was one of the biggest highlights, is that, where are the Misfits? And, oh my gosh, the leader of the Misfits is actually Kesha, and she will never play her ever again.
Yeah. But that's the, just, believe me, this is probably the most excited I've been for any individual movie since probably at least that 2015 Peanuts film. Just from looking at it and saying, I think they are finally going to get this right. And after, again, it took 30 years for them to finally get it right. And maybe, hopefully, it's finally going to be worth all of the wait.
Now, there's something I gotta ask you.
Okay.
Is that ever since Sonic the Hedgehog actually became a success, along with the sequel, do you believe that they actually created Super Mario Bros. as a way to,
I mean, I don't. Part of me has a feeling that they were all the Super Mario Brothers movie was already in development. I think they already had plans to do that before Sonic the Hedgehog movie came out and everything. I would think that's.
I remember the whole thing about the console wars and everything. That
Yeah, believe me.
For each other.
Yeah, believe me, I was there for it all, and like I said, I've just still never actually played the actual Sonic the Hedgehog games, though I did watch its cartoons as well back in those days. But it's definitely an interesting thing. Of course, the Sega has its partnership with Nintendo now, so that's not quite what it once was. But I think that, I would say that, well, Super Mario and Sonic, as far as these movies go, they were on their own independent paths and probably didn't have that much connection to either one.
Yeah, because like I said, I mean, I don't remember any video game movies that had been known to be competing each other until now of some sort. I remember that every time we hear something that's based on a video game property, it's either created by somebody that doesn't know about the video game, or it's Uwe Boll.
Yeah. So, in other words, someone who doesn't know nothing about the games. Period. But it looks like, but it really does look like that, almost like those days are behind us. That now, because we've got a Super Mario movie that Shigeru Miyamoto definitely has his hands very deep in, and that's for the better. Crossing my fingers that, because apparently I did recently hear that some type of concept art for it was recently released. Hopefully the Netflix TV series on The Legend of Zelda is going to still go through, and maybe, like I said, maybe things are finally going in the right direction with some of these adaptations.
Do you think The Legend of Zelda is going to have a rude link in this one, like back in the days?
If they could just find one moment to hear him say, "Excuse me, princess," I will fangasm like no one's business. Just give it to me once. That's all I can possibly ask for there.
Oh, well, excuse me, Rowdy.